is up. It's almost 5 a.m. Getting started a hair later than I do some of these, but not a big deal. Um, Seems like the hottest part of the year is finally winding down. It feels like it hasn't been as hot lately, but I'm also probably really acclimatized at this point to this heat. So I'm doing more of these again on tubes in the morning, mainly because we just don't get views this early on Facebook for walking. People don't really stay in if there's no light happening. So again, we'll do a bunch of bike stuff coming up here later, so we'll double dip on some of that, which we always like to do. And but hopefully we get a good productive stream in here. These are hit or miss, but sometimes we get some good ones. But I want to remind people that we need to stay on fitness topics. Um, I want this channel to be exclusively fitness. And so I'm going to get into a habit of just refusing to answer stuff. And I mean, if regulars can't stay on topic, then I'll end up just even removing them if I need to stay focused. So yeah, so we'll see what happens, with this stream. But I really want this to stay 100% fitness related. It doesn't matter what emergency is happening in the world. I don't care if, some country if nukes went off somewhere, it's completely irrelevant to the chat. So, completely irrelevant. It has nothing to do with fitness. So, unless you happen to live in that country and you're struggling to get to the gym, hey, how can I get around the nuclear fallout to get to the gym? It's not a fitness related question. All right, so that people understand what I mean. So, again, hopefully this picks up and we can make this happen. I might need to address the whole Colton thing. I did on Facebook. I don't know. There's a point where I just don't care, though. I mean, do we care about all the news and strength sports or the controversies? I mean, it falls back into just drama. Fact of the matter is, a dude, no matter how you feel about sumo or strongman versus powerlifting, you just saw a guy miss the lockout because he lost the grip after he locked it. We just saw a human being who is had a pretty light body weight compared to these big strong men. Just raw dog 500 kilos with a belt and chalk. With not a crazy wide sumo either. So what can you say? Morning coach, looks darker out than usual. What does that have to do with fitness? And it's not darker than usual. It's the same. That is not a fitness related topic. Can we stay on the topic of fitness? Thank you. Plus, that's really weird. It's literally the same level of dark. It's rather strange. All right. You may want to adjust the settings on your phone. Hey, how you doing, Adrienne? All right. It's the same as it always is at 5 in the morning. Is sumo any good? I need you to ask your question a different way, Scott. I don't quite understand it. Casey Lee, hey coach, I had some medical conditions come up, so I haven't had a chance to reach out to coaching, but I am getting better and will be getting with you soon. Awesome, appreciate it. Hey Casey, you could message me that also, but appreciate it. So, but I hope you get better. So Scott, we need a context for the question of is sumo any good? I mean, I guess my answer would be yes. But I don't know if that's what we're looking for. Yes, the sumo has its place as an exercise. Not much. Depends on the person, right? But does having a range of motion on an exercise are criteria for it having a use? Does that make sense? Depends on what you're trying to do with an exercise, doesn't it? Hence the question of, you said, is it good? Yes, it can be good in some situations. All right. What? Hey, Adrian, don't answer the trolls. Thank you. Non-fitness nonsense will be removed. Hey, Adrian, I'm going to let you remove your own comment. Not fitness related. Don't answer trolls. Next. But no, Scott, some people actually get good hypertrophy from sumo. I know a lot of women who do well with it for certain stuff. You know, but it also has its place for strength in sports. Now, if someone's goal was hypertrophy, a sumo might not be, right? It might not be my my go-to for lower body for exactly the reason you point out. But I mean, still, it could have its place. You know, especially a person who can get fairly deep with their hips on it. Like, I know a lot of women who do really well with it as a hypertrophy just because of the hip angles they're able to get on it. You know, if you're breaking parallel on a normal sumo, are we going to claim it's not a good hypertrophy exercise? You know. So that's the stuff we have to factor in there. All right. I like the deficit deadlift. I like the deficit deadlift too, but we're looking at a slightly different muscle emphasis. I mean, that's the thing with a sumo versus a conventional. They're not really fully working the same muscles at the same ratios, you know? So, you know, again, that's what you're trying to do. The Jefferson deadlift is silly. I don't see a point in the Jefferson deadlift. You place importance on bar speed and working out your rep. Adrian, ask your question a different way. I don't really understand what you're asking me. Please. All right. So are you asking me, do I believe in tempo training per se, or what are we asking here? Or are you asking me if we put any emphasis on bar speed to determine how close to failure we are? Where are we going with the question? Are we talking about myself? Are we talking about clients? Are we talking about general advice? So be specific, because I don't know where we're going. Yeah, bar speed can be important to determine how close to failure we are. It's only going to be significant shifts in about one rep unless you're grinding really hard, though. Yeah, general advice. I mean, but here's the other thing. You can have your perceived bar speed is not always going to be what shows on a camera, by the way. Does that make sense? Like, if you're filming it, you may not see a big jump in the bar speed personally looking unless you're running a timer, counting how many fractions of a second. You know, because a 30% difference in bar speed, like let's say your average rep on a lift has been 1.1 seconds on the concentric, and it goes 30% slower. That's, you know, again, we're talking about 1.5 seconds. So you're going to feel that way more than you're going to see it. Makes sense. But yeah, bar speed. But you need to learn how to tell how close you are to failure also. And if you're doing most of your sets to failure, momentary failure, then you may not need to worry about that a lot. I get a lot of guys don't want to be stapled on squatting and benching, but, you know, I can understand that. And that's unusual. I've seen 3 cars in less than 5 minutes come down this street in a morning walk. Oh, strange. All right, but that's not fitness. Back over. All right, just noting an unusual occurrence in my immediate vicinity. All right. So, is this the Jason Blaha channel? Yes, obviously. What do you mean the Blaha? Oh. Oh, we'll just get rid of that nonsense. Hey, we just got rid of the guy with the crown, so you guys can pick that up. Oh man, it feels good to just have zero tolerance for any nonsense at all. All right. But what I would point out to you, your perceived shift in bar speed is what you're looking for. You know, I personally, for me, when I'm doing rep work, anything above about 6 reps, 5 to 6 reps, I only feel 1 rep that gets harder, and then I fail the next rep. For me personally, right? So let's say I fail rep 11. I don't feel any difference in the reps significantly until rep 10. All right. So, you know, that's just me. And then that's if I fail rep 11. Rep 10 usually feels harder and slower to me, but rep 9 doesn't feel any different than rep 6. It's the same. For me, as far as my perception, they move the same speed, they feel the same weight. All right. But you can also adjust your tempos to make sure you fail right when you want to fail. Like if you could be 1 or 2 reps from failure, and if you slow down the eccentric on the last rep, you're going to pretty much guarantee you can't get the coming on. So you do have a little bit of control there. That's another thing that you have to think about when it comes to replicating performance, you know, set to set. You do have some control with that because it does create additional fatigue. It's going to make you too weak to do the concentric rep. All right. All right. Next. We had a few good questions and we had some nonsense. I believe getting stronger with weights will help mental health in this sick world. I agree. DJ, no, I'm not up early. I'm not up any earlier than any other day. You guys see me out here this early all the time. This is a normal day. I believe getting stronger. Yeah, I agree with that too, Scott. I think it's therapeutic. If you had to replace squats with some reason, you can't replace squats. All right. What would be a better replacement? Machine hacks. No, those are acceptable replacement for squats. I guess maybe a sumo deadlift or something. I don't know. You can't replace a squat. Like, that's my point. But here's the question: why are you replacing the squat? Because if you say it's an injury, then you can't replace the squat. Does that make sense? There is no replacement. You just literally can't do anything close to it. I mean, if you have an injury, you can't. It's impossible. If you have an injury that prevents you from squatting, you probably can't do any exercise even remotely close to a replacement. You're going to have to go pick some exercise that works around the injury to train with, but it will not be able to replace the squat. Deficit sumo deadlift, yeah, you know. Yeah, maybe maybe a deficit sumo deadlift. But any exercise that doesn't load the spine can't replace the squat, right? You know, you could do, but I mean, so let's assume that it's not anything involved with the loading. Let's assume it's because your arm is in a cast. Well, see if you can find a grip that lets you get your arm up over it. You also have the option of a safety bar squat, would still be acceptable, and so on. Hey, Alan, no, and you guys don't need to ask me every day, please. You will get a post update when it occurs all over social media. You will know already. So, nope. We're just going to keep chipping away at it. I know you use an alternative then. But see, here's the thing, Benjamin, you didn't say what type of injury. So you can't just say, hey, what can I replace the squat with? You need to say, you know, I might have a really painful disc herniation. I herniated my L3 and my doctor doesn't think I should load my, you see what I mean? We need some details here. Like you can't just say an injury. The body has a lot of places in it. So, you know, that's not an appropriate question for your specific situation. An appropriate question would be, my arm is in a cast, it's broken, I don't know, I fractured my left femur, right? Tell us what's going on here. Like you can't work around an injury or pick an alternative exercise to try to work with if you don't know what the injury is. Like you've still given no indication. You know, makes sense. So we've got to be specific with what we're looking for. And you still didn't give us any indication. Do you feel any improvement from training barefoot? Yeah, barefoot training is superior. You're going to have stronger feet and ankles training barefoot. The coxal injury. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you there. How do you know it's injured? Did you have a doctor diagnose it? Has it been x-rayed? Is it fractured? Like, you need to tell us what's going on with the injury. Who diagnosed this specific bone as being injured? Because, I mean, if that's really injured, you're not going to be able to do this other stuff. You're not going to be able to train your lower body. You're not going to be able to do a leg press. You're not going to be able to do a hack squat, right? If that bone is truly injured, you're not doing a hack squat either. You may not be able to train your lower body at all, other than maybe some isolation machines. So, is this something you came up as a theory from a YouTube video like you were talking about, or has this been a diagnosed, you've somehow fractured this bone, like in a doctor's x-rayed it? All right. So, but I can tell you right now, if that bone is injured from squatting, you're not doing a hack squat or a leg press either. That's not going to happen. You need to go have a doctor do whatever they need to do for it. If you don't wear shoes, your feet will become strong. And you've seen them people off the grid barefoot. Okay, so you need to go, if you believe this bone is injured, you need to go get it x-rayed. And it's very unlikely a squat has injured it. You fell on it, you hit some, maybe you hit a box too hard on a box squat. It's not from doing a barbell back squat. So you hit it on something. All right. So you fractured it by striking it. Or falling, you fell down or something and hit it the wrong way. So it was not your squat that caused it, but you may not be able to train the squat. Like anyone who's telling you that that bone is going to get injured squatting is crazy, by the way. So you fell and hit it on something. Yeah, I should see when all good, thanks for your tips. Yep. I do agree with that, Scott. It's the reason I train barefoot. It makes your feet stronger. Yep. You know, and I would say a lot of guys who have different fatigue issues and they have pain and these minor injuries, a lot of this stuff would be fixed on things like squats if they just ran a phase of deep pause squats or something like full squats. Stop ego lifting, learn to get tight. A lot of these minor problems that people have just go away and you'll be able to do stuff normal. But if you use poor form, no. You're not going to injure that bone necessarily with poor form. Now you can pull stuff in your back, you can strain soft tissues. But I'm telling you, anyone who's telling you you're injuring that bone squatting is a complete ignoramus or a quack or they're crazy. Like, stop listening to them. All right. Appreciate the likes and the engagements, Peppermint. Always appreciated. Yep. All right, let's get some more fitness questions. So, but speaking of training, I'm happy with that benching yesterday. The reason I'm happy, I think that's the heaviest bench I've ever hit while walking around under 220 in my 40s. So I'll take that win. All right, I'll take that win. Also noticing my quads feel like they're getting bigger. I can see them bigger at certain angles. So sled work is kicking some muscle memory in. DJ, I appreciate that like button, man. Thank you so much. But we'll probably be doing most of these after the walk on the bike so we can multi-stream. All right, so we can multi-stream. While the Facebook picks up. The Facebook is going up though, like all the engagements going up, so it's good. That's moving along. But for now, I'm still gonna give you guys some morning walks. Until the weather shifts, you know. I'm gonna get to a point with these walks where I'm not gonna wanna come out and walk in the morning with the weather and everything. You know, within probably not that long. Right now it's still really nice. I'm not gonna come walk in the cold if it gets colder. But I'm enjoying them for now. You know. And I don't know how I'll handle running later if and when I start jogging. I guess that'll depend on it. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it and not worry about it. All right. We won't worry about it a great deal. Yeah. I also want to figure out what I want to do with working incline back in. That was good yesterday. That felt good. Felt really good in my whole chest, upper chest, really, just the pec. I did feel the pec minor there in the delts. I do feel like it would help me to do that. Plus, looking at where my bench could use some work, I feel like it would carry over a little bit, you know. Plus, all these chest pressing movements are good for my triceps in general. I do think we worry about parts of muscles way too much. The longer I do this and the more I look at it, I think people put too much obsessiveness over heads of muscles, and I've been guilty of that too. Instead of just coming in and working a muscle and realizing with a couple of exercises stuff is going to splash over, you know. Especially if you're built around big movements, because there's so much carryover, right? People really don't realize how much carryover there is to certain heads of muscles. Wearing shoes is actually not good for your feet. We need to be barefoot. More true. It's just hard, and you know, in a world with sharp objects on the ground and parasites and everything else, you know, it's problematic. You know. Yeah, if there wasn't stuff out here on the ground, I mean, I'd consider barefoot running later. Jason, you think these maxes goes because you're not hammering too much volume, so the bench max and the rest of work is just dips? I think that's definitely part of it. I do think me keeping the volume in check helps me. Because even when I've got my squat up really heavy, have I really been doing a lot of volume? You know, like when I hit the 500 squat back in January, my leg volume was relatively low. You know, like I feel like on squats, my squat could climb literally just from doing the sled work and the heavy singles. But again, think about stuff like sled work, how much muscle you build pushing the sled or pulling a sled. Have you had any football? Be specific. Like American football? No, because they're not going to be coming to, unless they're a high school football player and their parents are hiring you, they're not going to be coming to an online coach. Their universities are going to have programs. They're going to have a strength and conditioning coach already. And if they're an NFL player, I mean, obviously they're not coming to YouTubers. Coach, I'm impressed by your sled pushes, especially at the end. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get a little speed at the end on a lot of them. That back stretch. We don't always have to do that either. I've had some people who try to comment on that they feel it's weak, and I'm like, look at the type of ground I'm pushing it on. You're crazy. You do it. All right. Could hit hinge movements. Yeah, I'm sure you accidentally hit enter and didn't finish your question. Back extensions, potentially injure. No, I don't see how, no. Probably not. The bone? I mean, I would need to investigate, but I mean, probably not. You really seem obsessed with this one bone being injured. Have you considered OCD meds for this? This just seems like a very strange obsession you developed with a specific bone that probably isn't hurt. I'm not being mean, Benjamin. You may want to talk to a therapist about this. This sounds more like an OCD or some sort of mental hang-up, obsessing over a specific bone like that, than an actual injury. So I mean, and I'm not being mean, but it does sound like a mental health situation, not an injury. To have that, you keep coming back obsessed with this one bone. I would talk to a therapist about it. All right, full body is the best way I've implemented in myself for more frequency still, plus still only train 3 days. Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing with the full body. It's when I bring it up and when I've done it, it's not even always about, oh, is it physically better? No, not necessarily at all. It's not what I'm saying. Mentally, though, organization, like it really works for people in the real world, right? Because, again, if something happens and you miss workouts, every muscle was still stimulated recently, right? Your rotation never really gets messed up. You pretty much can stay in a growth phase all the time. It's because I did research on it. Well, to me it sounds like a strange obsession, Benjamin. It just seems really unlikely. I'm just going off, I mean, you're asking my opinion as a coach. I'm just telling you I don't think this is really a thing. I think you've developed a strange obsession with a specific bone that probably isn't being hurt by lifting the pain, right? So yeah, that definitely is not lifting related. No, you fell down or you hit it too hard, you injured yourself in some manner, or it's not your bone at all. You pulled some muscle in your butt cheek or your just above your glute. Does that make sense? You've pulled a muscle somewhere. It's not your bone. Because if it's any of that bone like there that you're talking about, that pain, you have physically hit it on something. You fell down. Maybe you were drunk and didn't realize you fell down or something. I guess it's not from squatting. Plus, I spoke to a few physicians whom I work with. Okay, so why aren't you talking to those doctors? Right? So if you think that you have some injury, why aren't you talking to a doctor about this bone injury? I'm just saying it's strange. I feel like you're a troll at this point. You know? But yeah, I think you maybe need to talk to a therapist. It sounds like a more of a mental health issue. This strange obsession with this one bone that's very unlikely to have been hurt in squatting, you know. Sorry, I'll let it go. If you can let it go. So if you come back with it tomorrow, I'm going to know that you have a strange obsession that probably needs mental health treatment. So, because it's not the first time you've done this, by the way, with this bone. Okay. I'm used to dealing with this sort of stuff online, by the way. That's why I'm being like that. I'm not being mean. I really deal with people who deal with strange obsessions and have mental health things in their, they get disguised as fitness related questions. I deal with it a lot. Like if we're going to be really honest, I deal with it a lot. So we got the one who comes in above body fat, and the one is an all-out bone. Yep. No, the body fat guy has stopped. He's gone to creating spam alt accounts. So he was the same guy yesterday, who had he made over 20 accounts so that he could spam the stream back to back and have them all in as subscribers. So I picked up like 30 new subscribers from him that disappeared once I banned him. Like he removed all the subscribers. I gained like 30 in an hour, and the guy spammed the channel. So that's the fat guy. Now I'm pretty sure he's the schizophrenic troll who's been obsessed with me for over 10 years and's on welfare for schizophrenia. All right. I was thinking, he lives in California. I was thinking to implement some forearm training, but although push-ups, range of motion, deadlifts, and barbell curls, it may be enough. But if you feel like you need some direct forearm work, by all means, knock it out, right? By all means, feel free to knock it out. Not a big deal. Coach deals with this stuff all the time. Pretty much. I mean, it's nonstop. I mean, I'm on the internet with an outreach. You deal with crazies. Both in terms of people with questions and, I mean, it happens. I mean, I deal with it even professionally, not just in these formats. Occasionally people who paid for a consultation, have these sort of issues. I mean, I even had a guy who applied for coaching, and the first thing he does, he didn't want the camera on. He put in a full application, and I get in the call one. He doesn't want anyone to see him, even me to see him. And he wasn't like a stalker. He just didn't want to be seen on a camera. Like, this is going to be a problem for coaching already. We get about 30 minutes in, and all he wants to talk about is the red pill manosphere stuff. And then he's explaining to me part of his problem. He has to admit, he's like, I have a pre-workout and a stimulant addiction. Like I go through whatever scoops of all this. And I'm supposed to be on certain meds, but I won't take my ADHD meds anymore because, and I just basically tell him halfway through, I'm like, this is going to be a miss. Let's just end this now and just move on. We didn't even get, we got halfway into the coaching consultation, and it's like, yeah, no, this is not going to work. So we deal with this stuff. Beginners don't need straps. Yeah, if people lose the straps, a lot of these forearm concerns would go away, right? Lots of pulling without straps will build forearms. And again, I'm not saying some forearms, some wrist curls and stuff are not good for some people, So yeah. Man. But you learn the same thing with your fans. You get fans who have their own set of issues, and you realize quickly. And I try to be polite with them, but then I have to give them warnings. Like, don't blow up my DMs on my page. I'm gonna have to ban you. Keep this stuff public. I know you have mental health issues, but you need to listen to your doctor. I mean, it happens. Part of doing this, and that is technically health related, because that's another point too. We talk about lifting as therapy, right? Regulars don't have to be warned, thankfully, but coach gets all sorts in here. Well, I mean, just across all platforms. Like, you guys can't DM me here. You can't, that's not as active as my other platforms, So, like, YouTube removed the whole private message thing, gosh, 10, 12 years ago, right? You guys remember when that was part of it? I used to get tons of them. We used to have private messages on YouTube. Stumble says, hi, hello. Yeah, it's too risky with mental health affecting people and giving them fitness advice. It can be problematic, but the thing is, we can talk about lifting being part of therapy, but if people are So at a certain point and they're not doing what they need to do, they're not going to be able to train or lift, right? You've had to deal with crazy people. Good, you're still here pushing forward, right? Yep. Lots of people didn't even know about the YouTube DM thing. Stumble says, big fan. Hey man, appreciate it, dude. Appreciate you being a big fan and giving your support and love. Yeah, I mean, a lot of newcomers don't realize it was a thing. I used to get tons of them. I used to get like 20 of them a day on DMs back in the day. I don't know when did they turn it off, 2013, maybe 2014. I don't know, somewhere in there. They got rid of the DMs on YouTube. But it used to be, yeah, it was absolutely a thing. So we had an inbox, right? We had an inbox on YouTube back in the day. Hey Ben, there's my response to that. I think it was when Google acquired. Yeah, I think that's probably when. You know, no, it used to be a thing. You know, YouTube's got a lot of work to do. I mean, as a platform, there's a lot to be desired, especially in terms of all this stuff about protecting their creators, but they allow crazy hate videos. They don't allow that anywhere else, dude. YouTube is the only one of these big platforms that will let you make a hate documentary about a content creator, you know, and not like seriously ban your real account under your real legal name. Get you strikes. People forget that. They don't take those risks on the other platforms. YouTube lets you make real accounts, not under your legal name with spam emails. It lets you make whatever content. Like, they don't enforce their stuff. What they do enforce is linking studies and stuff if you're not careful, which pisses me off. Like, you know, no. I mean, yeah. So yeah. But back over to fitness stuff. So that's part of my issue, though, is YouTube as a platform needs a lot of work. You know, I don't put all my eggs in one basket at this point. I push Facebook more. Meta is a more stable company for content creators in a lot of ways. Not that it doesn't have issues. You know, during your time sick in bed for 10 months, when you recover, you fully independent of medical advice on your own, or did you get some aided physical? No, I had doctors. So, you know. I mean, during that time, yeah, I mean, I definitely had doctors. And the difference there versus, you know, when you make money, if you're actually truly destitute, you will actually get, there is socialized medicine in America. You will get doctors and stuff for free. People don't seem to grasp that. You know, so no, I definitely had multiple doctors at that time that I was seeing regularly. It took me 8 years of training to get a 315 bench. Yeah, I mean, that's not unreasonable, which is kind of my point of, you know, with the dad bod strength standards. I have people who don't like them. They're like, oh, but it's like, put in the time. You know, that's my point with that stuff. Those are long-term standards. I think too much people cater to the noobs and they're not putting out information saying, yes, this is where you should be. You know, if you've been really training for 10 years, these are not unreasonable expectations. Could be 10 years, it was not easy, yeah. You know, yeah. I'm not saying it's not going to be easy for most people. So, you know, what I thought was fascinating, I guess I should clarify some points. I had someone come through and say that when they saw me whatever bench to 335 the other day, a week or so, of course I've done the 350 now, they're like, you used gear for years and you're only 10% roughly above your dad bod standards. And I'm like, so how can you say that they should be obtainable? And I'm like, first of all, I hit all of those before I ever used anything. Like, so I thought that was a weird commentary. You know, it's like I actually hit all those numbers while I was still natural in my early 20s. So I don't think it's unrealistic. Two, I think people are forgetting I'm in the normal test range right now. I'm 48 years old with a testosterone that is within the reference range. So I thought it was a rather strange. Will leg extensions carry over to squat a lot? No, probably not. I mean, they'll have some carryover. I mean, it's still working the quads. That's similar to me. It took me 2 years for 220 and another 8 years for 315. Man, you aren't going to like my response. This is where I always say, man, I'm not built to bench, but then I'm standing here kind of baffled. You know, I'm not, because I know that for most guys that's normal. I started with about a 65 bench. It probably took me 2.5 years to get a 315. 2 years of blood and sweat. I struggled with the benching a lot more later, just due to, again, some shoulder inflammation, other stuff. Me always close gripping, right? But now I've kind of resolved all of that. So now people are like, man, your benching just coming along. It's like, yeah, because I'm kind of back where I was of wide gripping, doing my dips, no shoulder inflammation. So yeah, my benching is coming along like it did back in my 20s. Takes time for most of us. Coach, I'd say, was quite predispositioned to strength. I mean, yeah, to be fair, I hit a 405 squat in like a year and a half, I don't know, ballpark. I can't pin it down to that. It was less than 2 years, you know. And I did it in under 200 pounds. Same thing, I mean, I think those hitting the dad bod, I was probably in the 190s when I hit those, you know, for that standard. Do you think it's better to replace whey protein with, for example, Greek yogurt and to get additional? I don't know. Is it better? Protein is really convenient and you don't have to refrigerate it. It's easy to mix with stuff. I like the fact that you can mix it into things. You can mix it into the yogurt really easy. But I am somewhat, the convenience of all that aside, if we're going to use the term optimal, right? It's probably more optimal to just eat the Greek yogurt, you know. I mean, don't get me wrong on that. Of course, I keep the whey protein on my wish list because, I mean, I'll still use it. Protein is protein. It's just not hard to get enough protein. Like, I ran some numbers in Chronometer going, man, I bet my protein may be too low if I'm only eating this. And I start plugging in little bits and bites. And I'm like hitting, all right, I don't see how dudes eat under 150 grams of protein without being vegan. I just don't see it. Like, I can't. Well, even taking my stuff down to, well, what if I only eat, whatever, 6 ounces of chicken breast and 3 eggs and a little, like I start throwing the numbers in, it's like, oh, 160 grams of protein in Chronometer for 3,000 calories. It's like, you're going to hit your numbers if you're eating animal stuff. Yeah. But, you know, so, and we're talking even the numbers I need at my body weight. A guy who's 180 pounds, I mean, what are we talking about? I mean, no one is struggling to get enough protein if you're eating some animal stuff. I don't even need to throw out that 100 grams of animal source. You could eat 50 grams of animal source a day. And if you're eating a whole foods diet, most dudes are still going to hit their target if they're under 200 pounds, you know, because you were a prodigy. You think it's better to replace whey protein, for example, with Greek yogurt and get additional health benefits? Oh, we already covered that. I just covered that. What am I doing? Peppermint, I don't know about being a prodigy. I mean, I was in a good environment, though. You know, I was in a good environment. You know, different era, old school gyms, had athletes and some lifters in the family, you know, kind of drug me to the gym, you know. I mean, yeah. But yeah, going to real gyms back then, it mattered. The environment mattered. And I'm not saying the guys all knew what they were doing, you know. But that old school lifter mindset and then the social environments was different. Plus, focusing on the basic movements early helps, you know. Beginners need a coach, yeah, to some extent. It was a nature and nurture, yeah, a bit of nature and nurture, that combination, you know. But now I just need to strip down leaner. I definitely just have to keep getting leaner, honestly. Like the muscles there, like I've assessed, I've had friends who are serious bodybuilders and coaches have assessed. They're like, yeah, dude, you're good. Just get leaner. Just get leaner. Because the muscle density will show and come out. All the development in the years. I mean, like I said, we see them in things like the calf, some of the back now, the forearms. Just get leaner. I look like that everywhere under the padding. So that's why we're up doing this fasted cardio right now. You know, and I may do some sled work later today. We'll do the bike cardio and limit that feed window. I switched over yesterday also to see how it'll go. I want a little more of the easier carbs because I'm eating so many vegetables. I feel like I don't need the brown rice and sweet potatoes. I'm like, man, white rice and white potatoes did really well yesterday. I feel like because of the amount of vegetables and stuff I eat, that's probably a really good setup. Just easier on my stomach personally. I think especially limiting the feed window like I'm doing. I think it works really well. So I want to see what happens with it, but I threw more salt in. I'm trying to salt up plenty. All right. That's why I'm not going to worry about the scale as long as my waist is getting smaller and I know I'm in a deficit. I run that tight feed window. All right. I feel like I need to keep the salt and everything high. I just feel like my training benefits from it so much, you know, and not worry about water. It's like plenty of coaches I know, bodybuilding coaches, are like, don't worry about that. If you get lean enough, it doesn't matter. All right. So even these transformations people do day to day, it's because they're dropping water when they do some of those miracle transformations and they're still not as lean as you think. So it's not the opposite that they gain water. Because I've had plenty of those coaches point that out. They're like, look, if you legitimately get truly contest lean, you're going to be shredded even pounding down a gallon of water and 8 grams of sodium a day, right? They're like, you're still going to be striated. Like, don't worry about that. If anything, that just makes you look bigger. But, I mean, that's the thing I'm noticing as I'm doing that and not worrying about it, just trying to stay full in terms of muscle fullness and not care about the scale whooshing. The training's going phenomenal. And then I have to look at it and go, is it burning through more fat? Like if I'm very hydrated and performance is up and we're able to do tons of cardio, the lifting is going great, you know, the energy turnover is going to be higher, you know. So that's the beautiful thing about it. But yeah, so I am focusing on the more well-rounded though. Notice we're back to doing some heavy singles, then hypertrophy work. I'm doing the sled work for high intensity cardio to go with all this lifts. So, you know, let's balance it all back out. Let's just get super fit, super healthy. Right? And let the diet itself just over time just keep chipping the body fat down, you know. But if anything, all this list cardio is just improving my health. So that's the way I have to look at it. I can stream all of it so it's all business, right? And my health is better. So I think that's the thing with some of the benching and other stuff too, right? Because I've even had some friends message me who watch your lifters like, what's up with the benching? Geez, coach, why is that going up, you know? And I have one of them point out, he says, I'm not going to accuse you using gear because you don't look like you're on a blast. He's like, I don't see any of the signs. He goes, so I know you're being honest there. He's like, so why is your bench just kind of climbing up? And, you know, I think a lot of it's for recovery, right? We're not overbeating up any of the joints with too much volume. All the conditioning and the super clean diet with all the extra vegetables I've added for satiety. You know, being super meticulous with the nutrition, and I think all the list cardio itself is just improving health and recovery, right? I think it's working wonders. You know, I think the list cardio is absolutely improving my health. I feel like I've been doing it long enough now that I'm getting real recovery benefits from it, you know. Yeah, just get big and lean with the body you're talking, and be strong too. You know, part of me is going with those heavy lifts of now that I know I can tolerate all the cardio and the cut and I feel good physically. I feel like now I can put some effort into those singles and look at them and go, you know, can I keep cutting and can I get big numbers again? Obviously my deadlift is the biggest struggle, but you know, the squatting and the benching, I have to look at it and go, can I get down to under 200 and still have them go up? Can I do it and get more athletic? You know, and I think the answer is yes. But the getting leaner, doing the cardio, the super clean diet, those are things that I need to do, given my family history, you know. And disclaimer, I've been taking Lipitor again because I previously had done some keto, because I've seen some data that the Lipitor, when in on a really lower fat, like no saturated fat, can chip away at some atherosclerosis. And I had a couple bottles of it laying around. So I've been using the Lipitor. I only have like a 60-day supply. So I've been doing that to make sure that we can take any atherosclerosis down a little. My diet is extremely beneficial towards that. So as long as I can not have a heart attack, you know, we're going to just keep getting better. We say age 30 is a spring chicken or getting old. Sorry, weird question, I know. From a training age, 30 is a spring chicken. I mean, granted, the difference, okay. The difference is that your early 30s is you've really had some time to build some training maturity and muscle maturity. But you don't bounce the same. Like, it just shocks me. Having been in my 20s and come up in a generation of training with younger guys, I don't understand why these kids today just get hurt and pulled so easy all the time. Everything hurts, they strain stuff, they have all these fragile body parts. And this frustrates me even as a coach, because my generation didn't have this problem. Like, and maybe it's nostalgia. It could be nostalgia, it could be, what's the term I've heard? The odyssey of recollection is a funny term I heard recently. The odyssey of recollection. It just seems like when you're 23, you should be bulletproof in the gym. Like getting hurt at 23, I'm like, how? How do you get hurt at 23? Did you use really bad form? You know, it's the only thing that makes sense. Are you ego lifting? Um, we just didn't have these problems. Like we were able to do stupid amounts of training, do stupid stuff, and we got bigger and stronger and recovered. That was the thing. Like you didn't hurt. Like your body didn't hurt from training. You know, it just seemed like tendons and stuff bounce back instantaneously in your early 20s, mid 20s, right? I never got hurt until I injured my bicep. Like I had no concept of real strains or pulls or tendons that hurt, you know. Dude, we just came in and lifted heavy ass weight and trained like animals and ate. So I would say you lose some of that. Like that's the thing. I almost feel like it's, again, maybe it's this younger generation with the issues of they're not athletic and they were sedentary all through their teens. But it feels like you don't get the Wolverine regeneration effect anymore by 30, right? You don't just like regenerate instantaneously from everything you do in the gym. So you don't have that, but it seems like that's when really a lot of the strength and the muscle maturity, things really start to kick in. So it's kind of like your body matures more around that point. So it's not a true spring chicken like that, but it's nothing like your 40s. You know, so for me comparing say 40 to 30, someone who's 48 now, there's quite a bit difference. Yeah, you're still kind of a spring chicken. Like everything just recovers so easy still in comparison. But that is a point where you still have to worry about certain things. Like you do need to be careful with ego lifting and you do need to watch your tendons and stuff a little more. But you're also probably stronger by then. You know, I'm going to assume most of you guys have put in some years under the barbell by the time you're 30 if you're following me. You know. But yeah, 40 it really matters. You know, 40 is when stuff starts catching up to you, right? That's when stuff like alcohol or inflammation in your diet, you're really going to notice those things. 70-year-old considered a 48-year-old a spring chicken. It's all relative, and that's true, Alan. But I would say with each decade, the game does change a little bit. But there's a lot of perks to 30, you know. It's just like, I feel like 30 for a lot of guys is when you really come into your own lifting because you've got some time under the bar. You don't quite you're not Wolverine anymore like you are at 22, you know, where you could break your leg and walk it off, and, squat 400 pounds anymore. Like you lose that. But, you just have that certain muscle maturity. Neural drive tends to be really good. You put some time in. I just feel like it's a good time to come into your own. And you're still not dealing with the recovery setbacks you have in your 40s. You know. But definitely, if they're in your 30s, you still have some wiggle room. You know, so you're still a spring chicken in a way. In your 30s, you could still make gains drinking a little alcohol, probably. You shouldn't, but I'm just saying. All right, you can have a little bit of junk in your diet, and it's not going to derail your training because your tendons and joints literally hurt from the inflammation. But I would say once you get to your 40s, those things start to matter a lot. Your lifestyle has an enormous impact. And I'm talking absolutely enormous impact on your training recovery. It will determine if you hurt or not. All right? Does your diet cause inflammation? Yep. All right, this is getting really low views now. We're past an hour. I'm gonna head back to my house, I think. Not super far away. Get a quick shower, get some other stuff working. I'll do some bike streams here later, relatively soon. You know, get them relatively soon. But yeah, you know, yep. All right. But no, you're right. It's very relative, Alan. It's very relative. But no, but back over to that point with the stuff. I feel like, yeah, as long as I can, what I'm doing with everything is really healthy, and I feel like it's affecting my recovery positively. So I feel like the strength is doing really well. You know, yeah. What I'm happy with though, with that bench is that I did it without blasting any gear, and that's kind of the really key point for me at a personal satisfaction. All right. The fact that I'm at right now the heaviest bench I've ever had at under 220 in my 40s. Not saying a lifetime, but in my 40s, right? Actually, it might be a lifetime. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I might have done that in my 20s at some point, but not in the normal test range. So the fact that I did that yesterday and I woke up and I don't hurt at all, I'm super happy with that, especially considering I did that inside the normal testosterone range. So again, and people don't have to believe that. It's a personal satisfaction thing, right? For me personally, I'm very pleased with that. And it makes me feel like with what I'm doing right now, yeah, my strength could technically improve from here while I continue this cut and stripping away all this fat. You know, so then I have to ask the question to myself, where's the limit? Could I actually be under 200 pounds leaner coming up and bench 365? Could I squat 500? You know, in the 190s, if I keep losing the fat and doing what I'm doing, you know. I mean, these are numbers I've hit before. The muscle memory's there. Right? So that would be the interesting thing, you know, could I pull that off within the next year? You know, be in the 190s, much leaner, almost 50, and hit those numbers, right? The deadlift is the only thing that feels hard right now, you know. But I'm also not doing a lot of posterior chain hypertrophy. So, yeah, just food for thought. Of saying, hey, maybe I don't need to set limits there, you know. I don't need to impose limits on myself. It's self-imposed limits that may not actually physically be present. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and wind this down. You're right. It's like the Boog said, it's a mindset. So I'm going to wind this down. I love you guys. We will do plenty of more streams on the bike today.